Michael Bell with the CVB Challenge, in which we're studying a messianic verse from each of the 66 books of the Bible. We've arrived at 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 12. When your days are fulfilled and you lie down with your fathers, I will raise up your offspring after you, who shall come from your own body, and I will establish his kingdom. These are words that God pronounces to King David. So the key word here is the word offspring or seed or son. And we can see that it's an individual because God will establish his kingdom. We have a singular pronoun here. That David will have a descendant whose kingdom, according to this passage and others, shall never end. This permanent kingdom. All right, so most Hebrew, Jewish interpreters of the Old Testament and Christian scholars as well all understand this as a messianic verse without any question. The term son of David, in fact, is practically synonymous with what it means to be Messiah. God had rejected the house of Saul, had anointed David and chosen him, and the lineage would be through him where God would have his permanent king, his permanent Messiah, come from the lineage of David. Now, when we see Jesus of Nazareth then traveling between Jericho and Jerusalem, and blind Bartimaeus is there with the other blind man, and they cry out, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." The crowd could well laugh at that request because Jesus doesn't look like any kind of king, let alone the Messiah. He's not dressed in royal robes. There's no entourage of soldiers. There's no royal palace. The trappings of being a king are simply absent. To the contrary, here's a man maybe with a dirty face and with shabby clothes who's being called the Son of David. So in a sense, it's laughable. And yet Jesus comes over to Bartimaeus, asks what he needs, and he says, I would want my sight restored. And by restoring his sight, Jesus is accepting that title as Son of David. He didn't say, you have the wrong man. He says, yeah, I am the Son of David, and here I'm going to prove it to you, not with horses and chariots and armies and palaces, but I'm going to pronounce you healed, and in fact heal you of your blindness as proof that I am he. Now it's interesting, during the last week of his life, from Sunday to Friday, Palm Sunday and the Friday of the crucifixion, there's all kinds of controversies with the lawyers and the Pharisees and the Sadducees of his day. And Jesus counters then with a question for the Pharisees. In Matthew chapter 22, verse 41, it says, "Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question, saying, 'What do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he?' They said to him, 'The Son of David.'" Everybody knew that. This is so clear that the Messiah would look like David and he would act like David. And where David had to leave his throne due to death, that the Messiah would come and occupy that throne in a permanent way. So their answer is correct. Now Jesus says to them, "How is it then that David in the Spirit calls him Lord, saying, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet?' If then David calls him Lord, how is he his son?" Now, we need to understand that in this culture, the son was always less than the father. And here's David, this tremendous figure in Jewish history, the greatest king ever. In many ways, much greater than Solomon, because Solomon eventually falls away. But David, though he has his moments of disobedience, he is the greatest king they've ever had. And Jesus is saying, how is it then that David himself in Psalm 110 calls this son my Lord? No father would call their own son my Lord. And what he's saying is, I am greater than David as the Son of David. The truth of it is, David himself recognized this. In 2 Samuel 22:51, we have a Psalm of David, which ends with these words: great, speaking of God, great salvation he brings to his king and shows steadfast love to his anointed, or to his Messiah, to David and his offspring forever. David knew that the son of David would be greater than he. Now, if Jesus is on every page of the Bible, shouldn't he be on every page of your life and mine?